My name is Jack Mandeville, and this is Jacked History. Stolen Valor, the act of fraudulently claiming unearned military accolades. Sometimes this is when people wear uniforms, rank insignia, medals, or combat patches they didn't earn. Other times it's done when someone boasts of military accomplishments they never actually did. It often happens with people who have no actual military service, but sometimes it's done by people who do. Do you remember like 10 years ago when the stolen valor craze was at its peak? Some military veteran would catch one of these guys wearing uniforms and/or uniform items they didn't actually earn. Then they'd whip out their camera and start interrogating them until they fessed up to the lies, then start berating them and post it online to score some clicks and views. I mean, looking back on it, a lot of these guys who were doing the stolen valor were clearly on the autism spectrum, suffering from some other types of mental issues, or were just kind of lonely guys who wanted some cheap "thanks for your service, pal" comments during the peak of the American war patriotism. Their only motive was they wanted attention because they had sad lives. But in more serious cases, people do lie about military service in order to defraud others out of money and whatnot. And that's when it starts getting into the breaking the law arena. Then you have people who do it for their own amusement. Like that one time in 2020, I was doing a show in Bahrain, and after the show, this Air Force guy came up to me and gave me a cool red hat, then started talking about his unit. But I wasn't really paying attention because all I could think about was going to this strip of American restaurants I saw near the base so I could eat at a Chili's while I was being paid to be in the Middle East. Yeah, no. Did you see it in frame? So I tossed the hat in my luggage and, upon getting back to the States, decided to wear it when I went for a walk around San Antonio one day. And, much to my surprise, people started asking me if I was in that unit. I said no, of course. One guy in particular started telling me about the unit, how they're like the Seabees of the Air Force. They're engineers who build runways and other things in combat situations. And this time I was listening, because I didn't have Chili's on my mind. So pretty much from there on out, when someone would ask me if I was in Red Horse, I would just say yes, for my own amusement. Then I started going on podcasts, wearing the hat, and bragging about how I was openly doing Red Horse Stolen Valor. And the Red Horse people who were listening to the podcast, instead of getting mad at me, started loving me even more for stealing the valor of their unit. So they started sending me more hats and t-shirts, encouraging me to do the stolen valor until it just became a thing. Side note, here's a little tip for you guys. If you're gonna do stolen valor, don't go big. The problem is that people try to claim to be things like Navy SEALs, Army Rangers, and Green Berets when they do stolen valor. You're opening yourself up to too many questions. Don't go elite, go average. If I tell someone I was Red Horse, they're gonna take a look at me and be like, "Oh yeah, that makes sense," without any follow-up questions. Today, we're talking about another man from hundreds of years ago who did stolen valor for his own amusement. And his stolen valor was so legendary that people started writing books and making movies about him. Baron Hieronymus Karl Friedrich von Munchhausen was born into an aristocratic German family in Lower Saxony in 1720. And if you've watched earlier episodes of mine, it wasn't uncommon for young men of noble birth to enter military service at an early age. And at that particular time in European history, these young officers wanted in on war wherever they could get it, bidding their services to any allied country that would take it. Seriously, these guys were like athletic free agents out there. Oh, you're a foreign officer who wants to get in on this war that has nothing to do with you and your country? Sure, here's some money. Get out there, champ. This was even the case in the Americas, an expansion team of the day, if you will, where the officer talent pool was pretty bleak. I mean, the United States as we know it today doesn't exist without the help of men like Francis Marquis de Lafayette or previously covered German-Prussian Baron von Steuben. This was the case of Munchhausen, who by his late teens was participating in the Russo-Turkish War, hundreds of miles from Lower Saxony, Germany. And by his early 20s, He had undoubtedly already seen action as a young lieutenant. When not in direct combat, he spent most of his time posted in Riga in modern-day Latvia, where he consorted with Baltic aristocrats. It was there that the Baltic social culture rubbed off on him, where he learned to tell elaborate stories during social events, as was common in that area. It wasn't about lying for advancement, it was about who could be the funniest and most entertaining. They didn't have like iPads back then, they had to like entertain themselves with their mouths at each other. But if you think the modern military officer corps is a highly political place, it was just as ass backwards back then too. Munchausen, still an outsider, had problems with finding promotions beyond the rank of captain. And by 1760, still a relatively young man, he retired back to an estate in Germany where mommy and daddy's money could take care of him. I called him relatively young because he was about 40 during that time, which is pretty much my age, and I'm not willing to admit that I'm officially on the downslope of my life. Anywho, Steuben did what the elite members of society did back then. He hosted a shitload of dinner parties. And at those parties, he gained quite the reputation for telling extravagantly tall tales about his time in military service out east. Like really wild tales. Like unbelievable tales. But they were fun, and he quickly got the reputation as being one of the best storytellers in all of Germany. So much so that other noblemen traveled from out of country just to hear him talk. Again, he wasn't lying. Everyone was in on the joke. And again, that kind of storytelling was a common practice amongst elite social circles of the day. He just happened to be one of the best at it. Enter Rudolf Rasp. Rasp was what you would call a rapscallion. Though he was involved with some legit academic work, he developed into a bit of a con artist and was basically ran out of continental Europe and had to flee to England. Historians aren't really sure if Rasp had ever even met Munchausen. I mean, it's possible, but we don't know. It is likely, given that Rasp had ingratiated himself in certain social circles, that he would have heard Munchausen stories through secondhand accounts. And with him knowing those stories, while still on the lam in England, Rasp started anonymously publishing English language books with an anglicized version of Munchausen's name in 1785, almost 20 years after he would have potentially been around Munchausen. And in those books, the narrator, Baron von Munchausen, who was clearly based on the German nobleman of the same title and name, spoke of his military time in Russia, where he fought a 40-foot crocodile, landed on the moon, and rode a cannonball during battle. These books became wildly popular, so much so that the character began taking on a life of its own, adding the large nose and lanky figure he widely became known for. And as it grew in popularity, German language publishers took it upon themselves to start translating it to German, where it became popular. That's when it got back to the real Baron von Munchausen, who was extremely unhappy with what he saw. Like I said, in reality, Munchausen and the people he told these tall tales to were clearly in on the joke. But in the books, the fictional Munchausen came off as an idiot who didn't realize people knew he was full of shit. Hey, what's going on? This is Natalie. Don't you frickin' fast forward. This is Jason from Grill Your Ass Off. Hi. And Heather Lynn.
I didn't know I was going to be in this video until 5 seconds ago.
No, it's good. You're going to love this because you're going to eat this too, right? What are we making today, Jason?
We're doing a Parmesan crusted potato seasoned with our bag and tag wild game spice. Let's go. So this is super, super simple. All that we're gonna do, I already have a baking sheet lined with tin foil, so that way we don't have to clean it, we can just throw it out. You wanna go pretty heavy with this because we're gonna be melting cheese.
I did it.
Just like that, I'm proud of you, Jack. Dylan, these cooking videos are so much better because I'm not doing shit.
I know
Yeah,
you.
how did I get roped into this shit? I just walked into the kitchen.
While they're chopping up some goodies, I'm gonna be putting down some Parmesan cheese. Now that we have the cheese laid out nice and evenly on here, I'm gonna hit it with just a little bit of bag and tag. And anytime you're seasoning, especially with the seasoning this coarse, we wanna season from higher up so that way you get a good mixture inside of the bottle as it comes out.
Oh, and I gotta say, If you're not gonna buy this to use it, which you should buy it just to have it as an aroma in your house. It smells so amazing. My nose is coming right now.
I'll hit the top. And as you hit the top, that's gonna help crisp up the potato just a little bit, but also make the seasoning stick to the potato.
Oh yeah, I like this.
I feel like that's more realistic anyways. So, and then I'll go back on top, do just a little bit more Parmesan cheese. You don't need a ton. We already have our oven warmed up to 400 degrees, so we're gonna throw it inside of there for about 35 to 40 minutes until our Parmesan's good and crusted on the bottom. Potatoes are soft all the way through, and then we get to eat this. Oh yeah. If you can't smell it, I know you can hear the sizzle right on the mic. So what we're looking for is that perfect golden brown, and then you let this cool. Let it get right around room temperature, maybe just a little bit warmer than that, and then take you a spatula to cut up the cheese and gotta do surgery because Jack wants a little one.
Well, I don't want to burn my mouth. Okay.
It's good shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
My mouth's not burning right now? It's because I freaking blew on it. The real Munchhausen tried to sue the publisher of the German edition, even though he had no idea that Rasp, who most likely stayed anonymous because he knew what he was doing would invite libel suits, was responsible for all of this. And historians to this day still don't know why Rasp decided to print these stories without Munchausen's permission. It was too late. The books went on a path of their own, and hundreds of years later would carry on the tales of Munchausen in movies and television, making him look like one of the greatest fibbers of all time. To this day, Munchausen syndrome, which is a medical condition where someone habitually lies about their medical ailments, is associated with Baron von Munchausen. I think we've all had that coworker who calls in sick a little too much. They always got something going on, always coming down with the flu. They've had 8 different forms of cancer. Rasp died in 1794. Munchausen, who was 20 years his senior, died in 1797, having never known who was responsible for publishing his stories until it was revealed years after his death. You see, kids? Stolen valor only pays off if you get the rights to your made-up stories. Munchausen didn't get a penny. Please like, subscribe, share, and hit that notification button, or I'm going to accuse Peter of stolen valor and ruin his life. My brothers died for that uniform! Take that uniform off! You piece of shit! My brothers died for that uniform!